Hi, I'm a financial management educator with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Tompkins County. I'd like to invite you to our workshop, Managing Your Finances Through COVID-19, Simple Strategies in a Time of Crisis. The current COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak is having a terrible effect on our economy. Many of us are finding ourselves in a situation where we have less money to take care of life's responsibilities. Our current financial crisis is challenging, and some of the government interventions will be ending soon. But still, know and believe that you can regain your financial stability once again. Things will get better as long as we keep calm and take the steps available to us. So join us on Thursdays at 5 p.m. for about an hour as we share some strategies on increasing income, explain how values influence financial decisions, talk about the best budget, and of course how to create one. We'll also share tools to help you maximize your current resources so you can take care of your needs and hopefully find some cash to include a couple of wants as well. We also have many other resources to help you with your personal finances. Please check them out at our website, ccetompkins.org. Thank you, and I hope we'll see you at the next class.
Great. Good morning. Thanks, Kenneth. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our monthly consumer issue program. This one topic, as Kenneth mentioned, was avoiding and resolving problems with motor vehicle purchases and repairs. That is a common complaint that we receive in the New York Attorney General's office, that people bought a car, drove it off the lot, there's problems with it, or drove it for some period of time and there are problems with it, and they wanted to know what they can do to resolve it. And so our discussion today will be the kind of things, not about cars, because I'm the last person you want to talk about is about fixing a car, but what to do if you run into a situation where there's a problem with the car. What can you do to resolve it, and what are your options? We know that cars, especially nowadays, are very, very expensive. Even used cars can be in the $10,000, $20,000 range, depending on the type of car that you buy. And so it is probably one of the more expensive purchases that we will make in our lives, especially when you take into account the fact that over the course of your driving career, you will have purchased many cars. And if you're paying $10,000 per car and have to replace it every 5 years or 7 years, that over a period of time, you're going to be paying a significant amount of money. It's probably the second largest investment that we make in the acquisition of items. The first being a home, but the second largest investment is probably in a vehicle. The difference between the two is significant because with most homes, depending on what type of economic situation you're in, will appreciate, gain in value over a period of time. That's not true with a vehicle. As soon as you drive it off the lot, it starts to depreciate, and as wear and tear builds up on the vehicle, it loses its value. So we're spending all this money, and then over a period of time, that asset decreases in value. We spend a lot of money on vehicles now, and we're becoming much more expectant that we are going to have a hassle-free use of the vehicle. We purchase it, we turn the key, or in this day and age, push a button, and it starts, and we go where we want to go, do what we want to do, jump in the car, don't think twice, and all of a sudden, we're starting to have problems with this vehicle. And it's very inconvenient, and it's not what we spent all that money for. And there's nothing more frustrating than shelling out thousands of dollars and expecting it to last us many, many useful years and give us all types of convenience, and then all of a sudden it breaks down or it becomes unreliable. It's one of those things, you can't live with them and you can't live without them. You can't live with this vehicle that's inconsistent and causing problems, but we need it. We need to be able to get around. and it can be a major hassle having to repeatedly take it back for repairs. Recognizing this, that the legislature adopted back many moons ago, back in 1983, the New York State Lemon Law. And it's contained in New York's general business law. It's a multi-volume books of the different laws that are just general business law. It covers a whole spectrum of all different types of businesses, laws, and things like that. Well, it's contained in there. Those of you that really want to dig down into the nitty-gritty of the law, it's actually General Business Law, section 198-A and 198-B, one new, one used. One covering new, one covering used. There are also regulations that have been adopted that implement the general provisions of the general business law. There's actually regulations adopted for the exact procedures that someone would go through in order to make a lemon law claim. But I have to give a word of warning. It's not the end all and be all, the New York's lemon law. It provides really good basic protections, but understand that the warranties associated with the purchase of new and used vehicles are really minimum warranties. There are significantly less protections under the lemon law as far as rights and giving remedies to have things repaired and what's covered than frequently what is contained in a manufacturer's warranty that you would receive when you purchase the vehicle. That first 36,000 miles, or some cases more, that you get when you buy a new car is bumper to bumper. It covers everything. If there's something wrong with the vehicle in the first 3 years or 36,000 miles, you take it back in, they fix it. No questions asked. However, the warranties provided for by the manufacturer do not include refunds. They will fix, and they will keep fixing or attempt to fix the vehicle under the manufacturer's warranty, but there's no provisions in the manufacturer's warranty for a refund of money. There are provisions in New York State's lemon law that do provide for the consumer to obtain refunds. And there's various subtleties that are in the existing law that can present some potential problems for people. So it's important in our never-ending quest at Cornell Cooperative Extension Consumer Issue Program shows to provide the consumers with information. That's what we're hoping to do, so that we can be informed consumers. The first avenue of protection that we have is something that we have to engage in ourselves, which is becoming aware of what the rules are, so that when we go into the transaction, we're on a level playing field rather than the dealer up here and us down there. We want to be on a level playing field so that we know our rights going in. And that's what our quest is here today. And we're going to talk about several of these things. First of all, talking about lemon law. There are two separate types of warranties, and there are significant differences between the two. There are some principles that apply uniformly between both, but there can be some differences between the two, and we'll talk about both. Understand, first of all, that under New York's lemon law, it only applies to motor vehicles primarily used for personal, family, or household use. It does not apply to commercial vehicles. And commercial vehicles are vehicles that are used for commercial pursuits. So you could have a pickup truck that could be disqualified under the Lemon Law because it's used for only for commercial purposes or primarily for commercial purposes. Where that exact same pickup truck could be for primarily personal, family, or household use, one of which the Lemon Law warranty would apply to, and the other one it would not. So that generally means that it's used more than 50% of the time for personal, family, or household use. The warranty applies to that type of use. So it's not based on anything other than what do you use it for? If you use it for business, not covered. If you use it for primarily for family, personal, family, and household use, it is covered. It applies to leases as well as purchases. The calculation of how much the refund would be might be a little bit different, but it applies to both leases and purchases. So it's, I'll use the term purchase generally, but understand that it does apply to a lease as well. And additionally, the Lemon Law warranties that are offered cannot be waived. So the dealer can't put in there, well, you waive any Lemon Law warranties, because you cannot, those warranties cannot be waived. So we have two types. We have the new car warranty and we have the used car warranty. New car warranty applies to the manufacturer of the vehicle, which is interesting, but you think, well, I bought it at a dealership here in the local community and it doesn't apply to them. Well, yeah, technically it doesn't apply to them because it applies to the warranty, applies to the manufacturer. However, dealers are the agents for the manufacturer. So if you went to a Chevy dealership and bought a brand new car there, yeah, the Lemon Law warranty would apply to Chevrolet, General Motors, but the agent for General Motors would be the local franchise dealership for that particular model. So let's talk about the coverage that is applied to the purchase of a new vehicle. The coverage is the earlier of 18,000 miles or 2 years from the date of original delivery. And that's important because in a new car warranty, the original delivery date is the date that the first purchaser had the vehicle delivered to them. So it's 18,000 miles or 2 years from the date of original delivery. Now, if you're like me, if you're driving how much I drive, that Lemon Law warranty would probably not last a year because I go through so many miles that I would go through the 18,000 well before the 2 years passed. If you're the little old lady who drives only to church on Sundays, the 18,000 miles would probably last longer than the 2 years. But that's the time limit. It's either or, and it's the earlier of the two. It's for vehicles purchased, leased, or registered in New York. Now that's an interesting provision because what if you went over the border into Pennsylvania and purchased the vehicle? Obviously, we'd show the dealer that you're a New York resident, you have a New York license, you got to show your license to get the vehicle, and that you're going to be bringing it back to New York. And what you'll do is once you buy it in Pennsylvania, you'll have to bring it back to New York and get it registered in New York. But the Lemon Law warranty actually applies to those vehicles that would be registered in New York. So if you bought it at a new car dealership just over the border in New York or Jersey, it would apply in New York. It must be registered in New York within a reasonable period of time. There was one case out there from the early 1990s where the person didn't register the vehicle in New York until 4 years later, it was determined that that was too long and the warranty would not apply. But it's unclear. It's that thing that we always talk about here, which is it has to be done within a reasonable period of time. What's reasonable? And I always tell you that reasonable is a word that lawyers get paid a lot of money to define. You have to go to court, and the court would make a determination what was the time reasonable or not. Here's what is required. What is required is that the manufacturer or authorized agent, so you're the local franchise dealer, must make repairs free of charge, and the repairs must be made to fix the problem that affected the vehicle. If the defect occurs within the first 18,000 miles, the obligation is still upon the manufacturer to repair it, even if you go over the 18,000 miles or the 2 years. Possible problem that could occur. What happens if you buy a vehicle at a dealer that has 17,500 miles on it? Remember we talked about the warranty applies for the first 18,000 miles. So it's still considered a new vehicle because it's under the 18,000 miles for lemon law purposes. But what happens? That puts you in a little bit of a squeeze, because if you bought a vehicle as a used vehicle, 18,001 miles, you actually would have a warranty that lasts longer, because we'll get into a second what the used car warranties are. But for a car with that low mileage, you'd have a 90-day warranty or 3,000 miles, whichever occurs first. So in this case, you actually would have a 500-mile warranty. So just something that I throw out there is if you go to buy a vehicle and it has 17,500 miles on it, let's figure out this warranty thing, because if I only have a 500-mile warranty, it is, however, bumper to bumper in those 500 miles, whereas a used car, we'll get into in a second, doesn't cover that. But that's an interesting quandary that comes up. Also, understanding both, new car really isn't an issue, because new cars are only sold by dealers. But the lemon law only applies to dealers, doesn't apply to private transactions. So what is the warranty on the new car? New car is that the manufacturer must fix for no cost any defect in the vehicle which substantially impairs the value. That's the obligation. So bumper to bumper, anything that substantially impairs the value of the vehicle, lemon law kicks in. What do they have to do? They have to fix it. Well, how long do they have to fix it? They have to be given a reasonable, there's that term again, a reasonable number of opportunities to repair. But thankfully, the statute goes on to define what is reasonable in this context. The reasonable number of attempts is for a new vehicle is 4 or more within the warranty period. So you must be giving them. So you take it back twice, and I get it. I've heard this, and I can understand that people would have a problem with this. Yeah, it's got a problem. Let's say it's a big problem. Let's say it's with the engine. We all know that would be substantially impairs the value of the vehicle. And you take it back once. First of all, you're pretty irritated because you bought a new car and you don't want to have any problems with a new car. That's our expectation now. Cars are so good nowadays that usually would rarely have something like that. So it's irritating to begin with. So you take it back to be fixed. Dealer takes it in for a day, inconvenience you for the day because you didn't have a vehicle. Maybe you got a loan or something. Then you're driving for another week or two and you have the problem again. And you go, I'm not dealing with this. I paid a ton of money for this car. I don't want to do it. Well, you say, I want my money back. Give me another car. Under the lemon law warranty, that's not the remedy. You have to give a dealer a reasonable number of attempts to repair the defect that substantially impairs the value of the vehicle. And so that's 4 or more. That's why it's a really good idea to be a good consumer and get a copy of the receipt for the work that was done. Even though it's free, you can then document with the invoice that you took it back at that time. And usually on the heading of the repair invoice, it has how many miles were on your vehicle at the time that you took it in for the repair. And it has the date. So you'll have the date you purchased it because you have your purchase paperwork, the date you took it in because you have that invoice, and how many miles were on it. Then if you take it back a second time, get the invoice so that you have a record of how many miles were on the vehicle so that you can show that there were 4 or more repair attempts within the period of time within which the warranty period. So you can keep those. Or at the very least, at the end, if you still have problems after 4 repair attempts, you can ask the dealer, say, I want printouts. They say, well, don't worry about it. It's all covered by warranty. You don't say, well, yeah. Say, use the excuse you're anal. I'm anal. I need to keep a copy of everything. I need a copy of paperwork. So keep a copy so that you have it for your records. It is presumed, there's a presumption, if the dealer has had 4 or more attempts to repair the vehicle within the warranty period, and the defect that substantially impairs the value is not fixed, there's a presumption it's a lemon. The other time period is, in addition to 4 or more, is there's a length time as well, which is if the vehicle has been out of service for 30 days or more. So if you had 2 repair attempts, but the dealer kept the vehicle for more than 30 days and the defect is still not corrected, then it's also triggers the lemon law warranty. There's a case from 2006 that said that you do not need to show that the defect exists at the hearing, as long as it was not fixed within at least 4 attempts. So what happens if it isn't fixed after 4, but then there was a 5th repair and the defect, maybe it was fixed? This case would seem to indicate that you would still be allowed a refund in that case because the dealer was given at least 4 attempts. But it would be safe and best to make sure you file for the arbitration case, because lemon law cases are through arbitration. You file it before you take it back for the 5th attempt. So if the dealer would say to you, I know you've had it in 4 times, but we think we can get it this time. You can say to them, okay, no problem. I'll give you the 5th attempt. But before I do that, I'm filing for lemon law arbitration because I'm not going to mess around with this any longer. And I want the refund. So just that's out there. So what happens? Let's say you go 4 or more within the warranty period, the defect still exists, it's not fixed. What are you entitled to? And it's your option. It's the consumer's option. And the option is to accept, the dealer must accept the return and issue a refund. The one thing that you will not get from the dealer is your sales tax. You actually have to go back to New York State Department of Taxation and get, you show that you've turned the vehicle in and got a refund of the money and that you want the sales tax return, and you can do it through them. Or the other option that you would have is to replace a vehicle with a comparable motor vehicle. So if the dealer is willing to give you another motor vehicle, similar type of vehicle, and you accept that, that fulfills the warranty obligation. Or if you do not get it resolved, you can file papers to go through a lemon law arbitration, which I'll go through in a little while. And then you go through the lemon law arbitration, which is actually the paperwork originally essentially goes through our office, our lemon law arbitration unit, but the arbitration is actually conducted by a third-party arbitration company. More about that in a couple of minutes. So that's the new car warranty. So we have now the second warranty, which is much different than the new car warranty, and that is the used car warranty. And it's different in many respects from that new car warranty. One I talked about before, it applies to a dealer, only dealers. So if you go to buy a vehicle from someone down the street, you don't get a lemon law warranty for it. A dealer is defined as, and it doesn't have to be somebody that has a big store lot location. Actually, it's a dealer is someone who has previously sold 3 or more motor vehicles in a 12-month period. So it could be someone who is kind of selling stuff on the side and they got a couple of vehicles and were able to sell those. And if they sold 3 or more within a 12-month period, they will qualify as a dealer for lemon law warranty period. Also, they have to be very careful because there are requirements that motor vehicle dealers are supposed to be licensed to the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles. So someone who's kind of doing this on the side better be very careful and make sure they dot all their I's and cross all their T's, because if once they meet the threshold, they need to be registered with DMV. And again, it's personal, family, or household use that the vehicle is used for. And unlike the new car warranty, which is bumper to bumper, anything that substantially impairs the value of the vehicle, the used car warranty covers any condition or defect that is specified for specified designated parts, which are defective and cannot be repaired. So it covers only specified designated parts that substantially impair the value of the vehicle. So it's, for lack of a better term, it's the big stuff. And it's stuff that doesn't wear out over time. So it's not going to be the classic example. It doesn't apply to the brake pads because those wear out, but it would apply to the brake system associated with it. So we'll talk about those in particular in a couple of minutes. So it has to be a covered part. That's what the used car applies to. So if a covered part is defective, then it becomes covered. So what is the coverage? Now we talked about with the new car warranty, it's up to 18,000 miles. What you get under a used car warranty depends. Coverage is between 18,001 mile and 36,000 miles. That period, you are covered for 90 days or 4,000 miles. I made a mistake earlier, so it was 3,000. That's the next category. 4,000 miles, again, whichever comes first. If it has 36,001 miles, up to 79,999 miles, the coverage is 60 days or 3,000 miles, whichever comes first. And lastly, from 80,000 miles to 100,000 miles, it's 30 days or 1,000 miles. Anything over 100,000 miles is not covered. And I caution you because vehicles are so expensive nowadays that there are really good vehicles in really good shape that have over 100,000 miles. that get sold for thousands of dollars, if not more. Understand that even if you buy that car from a dealer, there is no state statutory lemon law warranty associated with that vehicle. I just want to point that out. There's also a time period, like we talked about, that the manufacturer had up to 30 days to fix, separate from the mileage. Same thing here. Here, it's 15 days out of service. Could also trigger the lemon law warranty. However, that is extended to 45 days if the dealer has to get parts and things that haven't come in. And again, it applies to the dealer. So the used car dealer down the street, it applies to them. They have to fix the vehicle within that warranty period. It's if the vehicle is 15 days out of service, but that's 15 days out of service could be stretched up to a maximum of 45 days if they can't get parts and things like that. So what are these covered parts? Like I said, it's the big stuff: engine, transmission, drive axles, brakes, but not the pads, as we talked about, steering, radiator, alternator, generator, the starter, in other words, the ignition system. It doesn't apply to the things that wear out, like brake pads and wipers and the wiper motors and tires. Those don't apply. However, there is a kind of a separate thing. It's outside of the lemon law warranty. It's the standard New York State safety inspection that we have to all get done every year. Under the Department of Motor Vehicle regulations, at the time the vehicle is driven off the lot, it must be roadworthy. What's that mean? I don't know, but that's what it means. So if it was not roadworthy at the time that you drove off the lot, for example, it should not have passed inspection. There's two problems. One is whoever did the inspection can be in trouble for putting the inspection sticker on something that should have never passed inspection, and to the dealer who sold it. So if it is not roadworthy, a good rule of thumb is it won't pass inspection. At the time that it's sold and driven, then the Department of Motor Vehicles is involved in that. It's kind of outside the lemon law warranty, although in some instances, it could also violate the lemon law warranty. And those who are faced with that situation file a complaint with the Department of Motor Vehicles. The dealer can exclude certain things. For example, the dealer could get out of responsibility if there is a failure to provide customary maintenance on the vehicle. So if it's still in the warranty, but the owner's not checking the oil and not doing oil changes, and it runs out of oil and the engine blows, that's not the dealer's fault. Failures due to racing or abuse of the vehicle could extinguish the lemon law warranty, and there are a few other things. But generally speaking, the lemon law warranty applies. So what is the dealer required to do in a used car situation? That is the same thing as with a new car dealer, which is new car manufacturer. They must repair at no cost, or reimburse the customer for the cost of those repairs. And again, it's only the covered parts that apply. And again, what kind of opportunity do you afford the dealer? You afford the dealer a reasonable number of attempts before the lemon law warranty would kick in. And for used cars, as also with the new cars, the used cars, it's 3 or more attempts. Used, new, it was 4 or more. Here with used, it's 3 or more. And if the defect of the defect in the covered part cannot be repaired, and there have been 3 attempts or more, it is presumed to be a lemon, and the person can proceed ahead. Lemon law case. what is lemon law? What is a lemon law case? One is the owner of the vehicle can either sue or can go through the lemon law arbitration process. Lemon law arbitration process is usually less expensive and usually much quicker. Statistics wise, consumers are winning maybe in half the cases or thereabouts. What's the arbitration process? Is governed by the regulations that have been adopted. You fill out the forms. You can get the forms through our office. You can get the forms on our website at ag.ny.gov. Look for lemon law arbitration form, and that you can fill those forms out. You send the forms into the lemon law arbitration units, right on the forms where you send it in. In our office, our only involvement from our office is just a review of the paperwork to make sure all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, that there have been the reasonable number of repair attempts that have been done, and that you've attached those invoices that we talked about before. Get a copy of the repair invoices that you had to show those. Then it gets forwarded to the administrator of the lemon law arbitration program, and that you will be notified that you have to pay when all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and it's going to be sent out to the arbitration program. You're going to be notified that that it's been accepted for arbitration, and that the consumer has to pay the fee. I haven't looked recently at what the fee was. It used to be for new cars, it was $250, and for the used car, it was $125. And that is part of what can be recouped if you're successful in your arbitration case. Once you pay the fee, the matter will be scheduled for that will be the filing date, and the matter will be scheduled for the hearing. I don't know in this COVID environment what's going on with lemon law arbitration cases. I don't know if they're being held virtually. I know a lot of court cases are being held virtually, so over Skype or Zoom or WebEx or however it's being done. And then it's usually scheduled in your area. So that's good. You don't have to traipse all over. They'll schedule it in your particular area. The arbitrator, who's not a judge, but an arbitrator, will listen to both sides of the case, and to the dealer's side as to why the dealer doesn't think there's a defect that substantially impairs the value, or it's not a covered part. And the owner of the vehicle who's saying that it is a covered part, and this is the problem with the vehicle. Part of the defenses that we talked about before, the defense, the other side, dealer side, could raise that the car was abused or neglected, or there was some type of unauthorized alteration made by the owner of the vehicle, or the problem doesn't substantially impair the value of the vehicle. That was my experience going on back in the day, is that they would try to raise that noise is not substantially impairing the value. It's still performing, doing all that. That's why sometimes it might help the consumer to have a person who knows automobiles be able to say that or maybe someone who, some other dealer come in to say, yeah, that noise in that vehicle, that will substantially impair its value. You can't get any money for that vehicle with that in there. And that sometimes the dealer will also claim that the defect that was originally the vehicle was brought in for, has been fixed. It's something else that's now wrong with it, that's different, and we haven't been given a reasonable number of attempts to fix the vehicle for that particular item. It's a whole new problem. And again, that comes down to a question of fact, and the arbitrator is going to have to make that decision. Is the problem really fixed or not? Is it really a new problem, or is it something that just has never been fixed right in the first place? So the consumer is again entitled to a full refund or replacement of the vehicle. I know that usually the consumer chooses the cash rather than the vehicle. You receive the full refund. Now, here's where some subtleties kick in. And that is, we talked about the new car. You have the warranty up to 18,000 miles. Well, you have the full refund up to 12,000 miles. And then once the car gets above 12,000 miles, but still under 18,000 miles, there's actually a mileage deduction formula that is calculated so that you'll end up, rather than me going through the math, there actually is you get a partial refund. It's pretty significant, but you get a partial refund. And it's based on the difference in mileage over 12,000 divided by 100,000. So it's a modest deduction in what you would receive. So if you are successful as a consumer, what you should do is notify the manufacturer of your acceptance of the award, and that the dealer will then, or manufacturer will then be required to comply within 30 days. There's fines if they don't comply within 30 days. If necessary, the consumer could bring a action. It's called an Article 75 proceeding. I won't go into the details of it, to confirm the arbitrator's report. And if you have to go to that extent, the dealer or manufacturer has not come through with what they were supposed to based on the arbitrator's award, you can bring an action to confirm that arbitration award, making it a judgment in New York. And if you have to resort to that, you are entitled to recover your attorney's fees if you have to bring in an attorney to do that. You may also complain to the Department of Motor Vehicle, and if the dealer is not complying, they can come down hard on the dealer and impact their license if they're licensed to actually deal with motor vehicles. So those are the types of things that you can do if you have that vehicle that falls within the lemon law warranty. You also have the manufacturer's warranty. We talked about that, which would call for them to fix what's wrong with it. And most importantly, let's talk about purchasing the vehicle in the first place. We all want a good vehicle. Everybody wants the good vehicle. We want to have a good buying experience. And the best thing that a consumer can do is to do your investigation ahead of time. The most important thing you can do is to decide what type of vehicle in a general area you want, and decide that before you go into the dealership so that you can't get talked into something. You want to be more in control. A lot of us feel out of control when we walk into that showroom. Think, oh man, we're going to get taken for this. Not if you do your investigation ahead of time. So the first thing is, know what you want. Do you need a minivan because you have 3 kids? Do you need a smaller car? You really need gas efficiency. So kind of get an idea of what you're looking at before you start. Now, with all the information that's available online, you can actually get an idea of what the cost of the vehicle is going to be in certain ranges. You can look it up. There's websites, I won't go through all of them, but there are just tons of websites that give you an idea of what you can expect to pay for a vehicle, either from a dealer or from a private transaction, with a vehicle of that kind of make and model with that many miles on it. You just can look it up. You should make a decision. Do I want to lease? Do you want to purchase? Some factors that go into that is if you're one of those ones that need to have a new car every few years just because you get old, you think the older one you want something new. You get tired of it. You might be a lease person then. Or if you're one of those ones like me that buys a car and drives it till the wheels fall off, or you put a ton of miles on it, then maybe purchase is the way to go. Your monthly payment, we'll talk about that in a second, your monthly payment may be a little bit higher because you're going to pay it over, they're stretching loans out to 7 or 8 years now, car loans. But it used to be always like 3 to 5. You may be paying more, but then understand that at the end of 3, 5, or 7, 8 years, when your loan is done, you have a car free and clear. Keep driving it. You don't have to make car payments. Leases, you're always going to have a lease payment. You replace the vehicle with another vehicle with another lease, you're always going to have a lease payment. So it's not going to end at the end of 5 years. You're going to just keep having that. And if you're willing to do that, that's fine. And traditionally, the lease payments are lower than what you would have to pay if you were buying the car outright, because the lease payments, it ends and you have to turn the vehicle in and you have to either buy a car or lease another car. Decide that ahead of time as to what you want to do. What are the things that you need to know? You need to know what you can afford to spend. And this is where people really get caught. And you have to understand that don't focus on just the monthly payment, because monthly payments can cost you a fortune. They may be lower each month, but can really cost you. So you have to understand what the financing transaction is when you're going to buy a car. When you're going to buy a car, we're talking about buying, leasing, we're put to the side. But when you go to buy a car, one thing the dealer may say to you is, what can you afford? What's your monthly payment? What monthly payment are you looking for? Well, understand what a monthly payment is. A monthly payment is really breaking down a lump sum payment and spreading it over a period of time. So the factors that go into your monthly payment are the total price, how much you're borrowing, because all it is you're borrowing money. It just happens to be that it's to buy a car, but you're borrowing money. How much you're borrowing in total? What is the interest rate that you're going to repay this loan with over time? And lastly, over what period of time are you paying? I'll use some examples. If you are paying, the lump sum stays the same. You have to negotiate that. And whatever that is, that is. And that number will stay the same. But the monthly payment will change based on those other two factors. What's your interest rate? The higher the interest rate, the higher the payment. The lower interest rate, the lower the payment. How long are you paying this over? The longer you pay it over, the lower. If you take in the lump sum amount that you're paying, and so you decided how much you have to finance. If you stretch that using the same interest rate, let's say it's 4%. If you pay that loan back at 4% over 5 years, it's going to be a certain amount a month to attain that payoff in 5 years. If you stretch it out over 8 years, the payment goes down. But the total dollars that you will pay to pay over 5 years compared to 8 years is significant. You will reduce the total amount that you pay in dollars the shorter the loan period is. So don't focus on $238 a month, because if the dealer stretches that over 8 years, that $238 can be a lot of money compared to if you pay, and again, I'm just grabbing numbers. If you pay $300 a month instead of $258 and pay it over a shorter period of time, because there's a shorter period of time, that $300 a month in total will add up to significantly less money overall than the $238 that you had to pay stretched over 8 years. I'm not saying this to confuse anybody, but to say that the last thing you should be considering is how much it is each month. Figure out how much you're paying in total, because it's the outright total out of your pocket that really is going to whack you. If you're still paying this thing 6, 7, 8 years as this car has depreciated, you are going to reach a period of time during the middle of that loan that the car is actually worth less than what you owe on it. And you could go into the dealership and say, it's 3 years in on an 8-year loan, and I want to trade the thing. You're going to find out that you're only going to get, again, I'm grabbing numbers. You're only going to get $10,000 for the car, and you owe 15. In other words, you're what is referred to in the trade as being upside down. You actually owe more than what the car is worth. And you can't just do a straight up trade, because they're going to have to get that extra $5,000 somewhere. And what they frequently do is add it into the price of the new car that you want. So understand all of this going in and figure out the best way you can do when you're buying a car to get this thing paid off. The earlier, the better. Then when you go in, you're not necessarily focused on how much it is per month. You're focused on how much you're paying for this car. How much am I paying for this car? Are all those extra nice things that are added to this vehicle, do I really need them? Because when you go in to buy a car, what you want to do is to buy something that you need, not something that you want. Because the wants can add to the price. So figure out, are these extra items worth it? If you go through and then you negotiate your deal with the dealer, what I'll say frequently in my dealing with the car dealer is, I'll say, okay, I'm not worried about the monthly price at this particular point in time. Let's talk about the car. How much are we going to pay the car? How we're going to pay for it, we'll figure that one out later. So then you can make a decision to say, hey, I'm going to put more down so I can cut down on the amount that I'm financing. Or maybe because I want to stretch it out longer, I'll pay less down, but my monthly payment will be a little bit higher. When you go in knowing that, you can't be talked into, hey, it's only $278 a month, but then it's 8 years. So figure out what it is, and then figure out what you need as compared to what you want. My best rule of thumb is buy the car before you fall in love with it, because love is blind. If you fall in love with a car before you own it, and you say, I got to do whatever I can do to get this car, you may be more willing to pay a higher price and be less willing to negotiate the price down because you really want it. Don't fall in love with the car until after you own it. Then that's probably a good rule of thumb in life. I hope if you take into consideration these sorts of things, you'll, one, understand what your rights are. And two, you'll have a more level playing field to go in and make a good consumer choice and purchase the vehicle that you need, and hopefully the one that you want as well. If anybody has any questions, I'll fire it back to Kenneth, and he can give us any questions that came over through the chat. Got anything, Kenneth?
Currently we don't.
Otherwise,
currently we don't have anything. There was one question, but you answered it already. They asked about,
cool.
Does the limit law rules that you were talking about with the 4 attempts, does it also apply to used vehicles?
Yep.
And they said, wait, he seems to like he's covering it now.
Yes, we're good with that.
Right. So
anything else? Anybody else has anything?
No, I think there are no other questions this time. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. Next month, we are going to be discussing tenant and landlord rights and responsibilities. I think this is something that's very pertinent to everybody currently. So I hope you folks will tune in next month, the second Thursday. We'll be here again. Tell your friends. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Thank you all.